The unexpected encounter, Captain. Marcus Reed adjusted his worn leather jacket as he studied the approaching alien vessels on his ship's main display. The bridge of the cargo freighter Iron Dawn hummed quietly around him, filled with the steady breathing of his small crew. At 62 years old, Marcus had spent most of his life hauling cargo between human colonies and alien trade stations. His weathered face showed the marks of countless space journeys, but his gray eyes remained sharp and alert. "Captain, we've got 5 ships closing in fast," announced Navigation Officer Tommy Briggs from his station. The young man's voice carried a hint of nervousness that he tried to hide. Tommy was new to deep space trading and had never encountered hostile aliens before. His hands moved quickly across his control panel, trying to calculate escape routes. Marcus nodded calmly and turned to his communications officer, Janet Mills. She was a middle-aged woman with short brown hair who had worked with Marcus for 8 years. Janet knew how to handle difficult situations, and her steady presence often helped keep the crew calm during tense moments. "What are they saying, Janet?" Marcus asked in his usual quiet voice. Janet pressed her earpiece closer and frowned as she listened to the incoming transmissions. "They're speaking Vorthak, Captain. It's the Imperial Patrol. They're ordering us to cut engines and prepare for boarding. They say we're in violation of Imperial space laws," the Vorthak demand. The main screen flickered and showed the face of a Vorthak commander. The alien had the typical features of his species: gray skin, 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. His military uniform was covered with medals and rank insignia that showed his high position in the Imperial fleet. "Human vessel," the commander spoke in accented but clear English. "I am Commander Thekval of the Vorthak Imperial Navy. You will immediately shut down your engines and submit to inspection. You are traveling through Imperial territory without proper authorization." Marcus stood up slowly and walked closer to the screen. Behind him, his crew waited for orders. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Zara Voss monitored her instruments carefully. Zara was a brilliant woman in her 40s who understood the Iron Dawn systems better than anyone else alive. She had worked on human ships for 20 years and knew secrets that most people could never imagine. "Commander Thekval," Marcus replied politely. "We're just peaceful traders carrying medical supplies to the Kepler colony. We have all proper documentation for our cargo en route. We don't want any trouble." The Vorthak commander laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Humans always claim to be peaceful. Your species discovered space travel only 50 years ago. You fly in primitive metal boxes powered by simple fusion engines. You are like children playing with toys in space." The underestimation. Other Vorthak officers could be seen in the background of the transmission, and they were also laughing at the human ship. To them, the Iron Dawn looked exactly like what they expected from such a young spacefaring species. The ship was large but appeared to be built from basic materials. Its hull was dark metal with no fancy decorations or advanced-looking technology visible on the outside. "Your cargo will be inspected for contraband," Commander Thekval continued. "You will also pay the standard transit tax of 50,000 credits. This is the price for using Imperial space without permission." Marcus exchanged glances with his crew. 50,000 credits was more money than their entire cargo was worth. It was clear that the Vorthaks were simply robbing human merchants because they thought humans were too weak to fight back. "That seems like a lot of money for just passing through," Marcus said carefully. "The price is not negotiable," Thekval replied. "Human ships are slow and poorly armed. You cannot run from us and you cannot fight us. Pay the tax or we will take your ship as compensation." The hidden truth down in the engine room, Zara Voss was watching her special monitoring equipment. These instruments were hidden behind false panels and looked nothing like the rest of the ship's technology. They were made from materials that seemed to glow with their own inner light, and they responded to touch in ways that normal machines never could. "Captain," Zara's voice came through the internal communication system. "I'm reading massive energy buildups from the Vorthak ships. They're powering up their main weapon systems." Marcus wasn't surprised. He had expected this moment to come eventually. For decades, human merchants had been paying these kinds of illegal taxes to various alien empires. The aliens all believed that humans were primitive and helpless, which made them easy targets for robbery and intimidation. But Marcus Reed knew something that the Vorthax didn't know. The Iron Dawn was not really just a simple cargo ship, and humans were not the primitive species that everyone believed them to be. The truth about humanity was one of the galaxy's biggest secrets, and today, that secret was about to be revealed. "Zara," Marcus said quietly into his communicator, "are you ready to show our friends what human engineering can really do?" "Always ready, Captain," came Zara's reply from the engine room. "Just give me the word." Marcus looked back at the main screen where Commander Thekval was still waiting for his answer. The Vorthak officer clearly expected the humans to surrender immediately and pay the demanded tax. He had no idea that he was about to witness something that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. The moment of truth, Commander Thekval's patience was running thin as he watched. The human captain on his screen. The primitive vessel should have surrendered immediately when faced with 5 Imperial warships. Instead, this human was stalling and wasting valuable time. "Human captain," Thekval growled, his 4 yellow eyes narrowing with irritation. "You have 30 seconds to comply with our demands. After that, we will consider your ship hostile and respond accordingly." Marcus Reed remained perfectly calm as he stood on his bridge. His crew watched him carefully, waiting for orders. They had all served with Marcus for years and trusted his judgment completely. Behind the captain, Weapons Officer Pete Garrison quietly moved his hands over his control panel. Pete was a former military man who had joined Marcus's crew 5 years ago, bringing with him skills that most merchant vessels never needed. "Janet," Marcus said to his communications officer, "please send a message to the Vorthak commander. Tell him we appreciate his patience, but we need a moment to discuss our options." Janet Mills nodded and began transmitting the message. She knew that Marcus was buying time for something, though she wasn't entirely sure what. In her 8 years of working with the captain, she had learned that he always had a plan, even in the most dangerous situations. The engineer's secret deep. In the engine room of the Iron Dawn, Chief Engineer Zara Voss stood before a control panel that looked nothing like the rest of the ship's equipment. The panel was made of a crystalline material that seemed to pulse with its own internal light. Strange symbols glowed softly across its surface, symbols that belonged to no known human language. Zara placed her hand on the center of the crystal panel and closed her eyes. The material felt warm under her palm, almost alive. She had discovered this technology years ago in an abandoned research facility on the edge of human space. The scientists who had built it were long dead, but they had left behind instructions that only a few people in the galaxy could understand. "Beginning activation sequence," Zara announced through the ship's communication system. "All crew members should prepare for unusual sensations." As soon as Zara's hand made contact with the crystal panel, the Iron Dawn began to change. The transformation started slowly, with small vibrations running through the ship's hull. The metal walls began to shimmer with a faint silver light that grew brighter with each passing second. The impossible begins. On the bridge, Marcus and his crew watched their instruments in amazement. The ship's power readings were climbing far beyond anything their engines should have been capable of producing. Energy flowed through systems that most of the crew didn't even know existed. "Captain," Tommy Briggs called out from his navigation station, "something strange is happening to our sensors. They're detecting energy patterns that don't match anything in our databases." Pete Garrison looked up from his weapons console with excitement in his eyes. "Sir, new weapon systems are coming online. I'm seeing weapon configurations that I've never seen before. They appear to be some kind of directed energy cannons, but the power levels are off the charts." Marcus smiled slightly as he watched his ship transform. He had known this day would come eventually. Humanity had been hiding its true capabilities for decades, pretending to be a primitive species while secretly developing technology that surpassed most alien civilizations. The Vorthak's confusion, Commander Thekval, stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. According to his instruments, the human cargo ship was producing energy signatures that rivaled those of Imperial battleships. That should have been completely impossible for such a primitive vessel. Science Officer Keltar, Tekval barked to one of his subordinates. Explain what I'm seeing on these sensors. Science Officer Keltar was a young Vorthak who had graduated at the top of his class from the Imperial Academy. He prided himself on understanding technology and physics better than most beings in the galaxy. But as he studied the readings from the human ship, his confidence began to crumble. Commander, Keltar said hesitantly, the readings don't make sense. The human vessel appears to be generating power levels that exceed our theoretical calculations. According to our files, human fusion engines cannot produce this much energy. Then your calculations are wrong, Tekval snapped. Humans are primitives. They cannot possibly have technology that surpasses Imperial science. But even as Tekval spoke these words, he could see that something extraordinary was happening to the human ship. The Iron Dawn was beginning to glow with a bright white light that seemed to bend space around it. Stars in the background appeared, to shift position, though everyone knew that was physically impossible. The revelation Zara Voss felt the ship's transformation reaching its peak. The crystal control panel was now blazing with light so bright that she had to squint to look at it. Power flowed through systems that had been dormant for years, awakening technologies that most humans had forgotten ever existed. Captain, Zara announced, all systems are fully activated. We now have access to defensive shields that can absorb any known form of energy attack. Our weapons systems are capable of precision strikes that can disable enemy vessels without destroying them, and our propulsion system can manipulate spacetime itself. Marcus nodded with satisfaction. Thank you, Zara. Pete, please target the Vorthak ship's weapon systems only. We want to disable them, not destroy them. Already locked on, Captain, Pete replied. Shall I fire a demonstration shot? Not yet, Marcus said. Let's see if they're smart enough to recognize what they're dealing with. On the main screen, Commander Tekval's expression had changed from arrogance to confusion and growing fear. His sensors were telling him that the primitive human cargo ship had somehow become one of the most powerful vessels he had ever encountered. Human, Captain, Tekval said, his voice much less confident than before. What have you done to your ship? Our instruments are detecting impossible energy readings. Marcus stepped closer to the screen and smiled calmly. Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You assumed that humans are primitive because we're new to space travel. But you forgot to consider that there might be more to humanity than meets the eye. The Iron Dawn continued to glow with increasing intensity, and reality itself seemed to bend around the transformed vessel. The Vorthak commander was about to learn that everything his empire believed about humans was completely wrong. Hi, Admiral. Zeth Karan paced nervously around the massive holographic display in the center of the Vorthak Imperial Command Center. The towering alien commander had served the Empire for 40 years and had never encountered a situation like this one. His dark blue uniform, decorated with the highest military honors, seemed to weigh heavily on his shoulders as he studied the disturbing reports flowing in from across the galaxy. Fleet Commander Nexara, he called to a female Vorthak officer standing at attention near the tactical display. Please review the incident report from Commander Tekval's patrol squadron. Fleet Commander Nexara activated the holographic replay of the encounter with the human cargo ship. She was known throughout the Imperial fleet for her analytical mind and her ability to solve complex military problems. Her 3 decades of experience had taught her to look for patterns that others might miss. Admiral, she began, her voice steady despite the shocking nature of the report. 5 Imperial patrol ships encountered a single human cargo vessel in Sector 47. When they attempted to collect standard transit taxes, the human ship displayed technology that our science division considers impossible. The holographic display showed the Iron Dawn's transformation from what appeared to be a simple metal cargo hauler into a vessel blazing with otherworldly energy. The recorded sensor data revealed power signatures that exceeded anything in the Imperial Fleet's databases. The Intelligence Report Director of Imperial Intelligence Vexmore entered the command center carrying a data tablet filled with classified information. The elderly Vorthak intelligence officer had spent his entire career gathering secrets from across the galaxy, but the information he carried today challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe. "Hi, Admiral," Vexmore said as he approached the command display. "I have been investigating human activities throughout Imperial space for the past 6 months. The patterns we have discovered are deeply troubling." Vexmore activated a galaxy-wide map that showed dozens of red markers scattered across previously unexplored regions. Each marker represented a location where Imperial scouts had detected unusual energy signatures or impossible colonization efforts. These markers indicate human settlements in star systems that our surveys classified as completely uninhabitable, Vexmore explained. The radiation levels, atmospheric conditions, and gravitational forces in these systems should kill any known form of life within hours. Fleet Commander Nexara studied the map with growing concern. "Perhaps our initial surveys were incorrect," Weedy sent verification teams to 3 of these locations, Vexmore replied grimly. "The environmental hazards are exactly as severe as our original surveys indicated, yet human colonies are thriving in these impossible conditions. Some settlements have populations exceeding 100,000 individuals." The Scientific Impossibility Chief Science Advisor Tokmer joined the discussion from his position at the Central Analysis Station. The brilliant Vorthak scientist had dedicated his life to understanding the physical laws that govern the universe. The reports about human capabilities violated several fundamental principles that he had considered absolute. "Colleagues," Tokmer said, his voice filled with confusion and worry, "I have analyzed the sensor data from the Iron Dawn encounter 17 times. The human vessel demonstrated the ability to absorb directed energy attacks and convert that energy into increased power for their own systems." High Admiral Zeth Karen frowned as he tried to understand the implications. "What does that mean in practical terms?" "It means," Tokmer explained, "that attacking a human ship might actually make it stronger. The more firepower we use against them, the more powerful they become. This violates the basic conservation of energy principles that form the foundation of all known physics." The science advisor brought up additional data showing energy readings from human trade vessels throughout the galaxy. The information painted a picture that no one in the command center wanted to believe. "Furthermore," Tokmer continued, "we have detected human merchant ships traveling at speeds that should be impossible with fusion-based propulsion systems. Some vessels appear to be moving between star systems instantaneously, without using any form of hyperspace technology that we can identify." The growing pattern intelligence director Vexmore highlighted several more locations on the galactic map. Each new marker represented another impossible human achievement that Imperial scientists couldn't explain. "Here," he said, pointing to a cluster of stars near the galactic core. "Human diplomatic representatives have been conducting negotiations with the Zerian Republic. Our agents report that the humans are offering to sell defensive technologies that could make Zerion military bases completely invulnerable to Imperial attack." Fleet Commander Nexara felt a chill run through her body. The Zerion Republic had been a potential target for Imperial expansion for years. If humans provided them with superior defensive capabilities, the Empire's military plans would become worthless. "What kind of defensive technologies?" she asked. "According to our intelligence," Vexmore replied, "the humans claim they can create energy shields that become stronger when attacked. They also offer gravitational manipulation systems that can make enemy weapons miss their targets entirely." High Admiral Zeth Karan turned to face his senior staff. The weight of command had never felt heavier than it did at this moment. For centuries, the Vorthak Empire had dominated this region of the galaxy. Through superior technology and military force, the possibility that humans possessed capabilities beyond Imperial understanding threatened everything the Empire had built. The Hidden Truth Chief Science Advisor Tokmer accessed another set of classified files that made the situation even more disturbing. His analysis of human activities revealed patterns that suggested careful planning and coordination across vast distances. "Admiral," Tokmer said quietly, "I believe we have been systematically deceived about the true nature of human civilization. The evidence suggests that humans have been deliberately appearing primitive, while secretly developing advanced technologies." "That's impossible," Fleet Commander Nexara protested. "Why would any species pretend to be weaker than they actually are?" "Perhaps," Intelligence Director Vexmore suggested, They wanted to avoid attention while they prepared for something bigger. If humans had revealed their true capabilities from the beginning, every major power in the galaxy would have tried to stop them or steal their technology. High Admiral Zethkaren realized that the Vorthak Empire was facing a crisis unlike anything in its history. If humans had been hiding their true power for 50 years, there was no telling what other surprises they might have prepared. Send immediate orders to all Imperial fleets, he commanded. No Vorthak vessel is to engage human ships without direct authorization from this command center. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we make any military decisions. The command center fell silent as the senior officers contemplated the implications of this new reality. Somewhere in the galaxy, humanity was preparing to reveal its true face to the universe, and the Vorthak Empire was completely unprepared for what that might mean. The archaeological discovery, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the massive underground chamber on the forgotten world of Kepler 438b. The xenoarchaeologist had spent 15 years studying ancient civilizations, but nothing had prepared her for what she had discovered beneath the surface of this seemingly dead planet. The chamber stretched for kilometers in every direction, filled with technology that hummed with quiet power despite being millions of years old. Professor Chen, Elena called to her research partner, you need to see these inscriptions. They're written in 17 different languages, including some that match early human Sanskrit and Sumerian texts. Professor David Chen approached the massive stone archway that dominated the center of the chamber. The elderly archaeologist had devoted his career to understanding the connections between different species across the galaxy. As he studied the inscriptions, his hands began to tremble with excitement and fear. Elena, he whispered, these aren't just similar to human languages. They are human languages, but according to these dates, they were carved here 3 million years before humans supposedly evolved on Earth. The implications of this discovery were staggering. If humans had existed in space millions of years ago, then everything the galaxy believed about human history was completely wrong. Elena activated her recording equipment and began documenting the inscriptions with careful precision. The ancient network deep within the archaeological site, Elena and Professor Chen discovered a control room filled with crystalline technology that looked remarkably similar to the systems aboard the Iron Dawn. When Elena touched one of the crystal panels, the entire facility came to life with brilliant light that illuminated chambers they hadn't even known existed. This is impossible, Professor Chen muttered as holographic displays activated throughout the room. The technology is millions of years old, but it's more advanced than anything currently used by any known civilization. The holographic displays showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of markers indicating the locations of similar facilities on worlds throughout human space. Each marker pulsed with soft light, suggesting that all of these ancient installations were still active and connected to each other. Elena studied the central display with growing amazement. David, I think we're looking at some kind of galactic communication network. These facilities are all linked together across vast distances. As they watched, new markers began appearing on the holographic map. These markers showed the current locations of human colonies and settlements throughout the galaxy. The ancient network was tracking modern human expansion in real time. The Sleeper Fleet, in a hidden asteroid field beyond the outer rim of known space, Fleet Captain Rebecca Torres stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Terra's Wrath. The massive warship was one of 50 identical vessels that had been waiting in concealment for over 30 years. Each ship was crewed by humans who had volunteered to spend decades in isolation, preparing for the day when humanity would reveal its true power to the galaxy. Captain, Communications Officer James Wright announced from his station, we're receiving activation codes from Earth Command. All Sleeper Fleet vessels are being brought to full combat readiness. Rebecca nodded calmly as she watched her crew spring into action. These men and women had trained for this moment their entire adult lives. The Sleeper Fleet represented the most advanced military technology that humanity had ever created, hidden away until the time was right for its revelation. Helm Officer Martinez, Rebecca commanded, plot courses for our assigned patrol sectors. We're about to show the galaxy what human military engineering can accomplish when we stop pretending to be primitive. The 50 ships of the Sleeper Fleet began moving toward their designated positions throughout the galaxy. Each vessel was capable of defeating entire alien battle groups single-handedly. Their technology incorporated discoveries from dozens of ancient human facilities like the one Elena and Professor Chen were exploring. The diplomatic revelation: on the neutral trade station of Omega-7, Ambassador Patricia Reynolds sat across from representatives of 12 different alien species. The elegant human diplomat had spent 20 years building relationships with alien governments while carefully concealing the true extent of human capabilities. Honored delegates, Patricia began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had negotiated hundreds of interspecies agreements. Humanity has called this emergency session to discuss a matter of galactic importance. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had all heard disturbing reports about impossible human technology, but none of them wanted to believe that the species they had dismissed as primitive could pose a threat to their established order. Ambassador Reynolds interrupted High Counselor Vextar of the Andorian Confederacy. If this concerns the recent incidents with human vessels, we must insist that your people explain how they acquired advanced military technology. Patricia smiled politely and activated a holographic display that showed archaeological sites on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy. The display revealed ancient human ruins on planets that aliens had considered uninhabited for millions of years. Counselor Vextar, Patricia replied, humanity didn't acquire this technology. We created it. 3 million years ago, an advanced human civilization spread across this galaxy. We are their descendants, and we are reclaiming our inheritance. The historical truth. The holographic display showed detailed images from archaeological sites across human space. Ancient cities buried beneath alien settlements, star maps carved in stone showing navigation routes that modern humans still used, and technology that had been waiting patiently for its creators to return. The species you know as humanity, Patricia continued, represents the survivors of a galactic catastrophe that nearly destroyed our civilization millions of years ago. Our ancestors established colonies on thousands of worlds before they were forced to retreat to a single planet, the world you know as Earth. Representative Kolmek of the Vorthak Empire stood abruptly, his 4 eyes blazing with anger and fear. This is impossible! Humans discovered space travel only 50 years ago. You cannot have been spacefaring for millions of years. We rediscovered space travel 50 years ago, Patricia corrected calmly. For 3 million years, humanity lived in isolation on Earth, slowly recovering from the disaster that scattered our civilization. But we never forgot our true heritage, and we never stopped preparing for our return to the galaxy. The alien. Delegates sat in stunned silence as the implications of Patricia's revelation sank in. If humans had once built a galactic civilization, then the current human expansion wasn't the fumbling efforts of a primitive species. It was the calculated return of an ancient power that had been planning its comeback for millions of years. The new reality. Professor Chen's voice crackled through Patricia's communication device from the archaeological site on Kepler 438b. Ambassador, we've accessed the central database. The ancient network shows over 10,000 human facilities still active throughout the galaxy. Each site contains enough technology and resources to support massive population centers. Patricia nodded as she faced the gathering of alien representatives. Delegates, humanity extends an offer of peaceful coexistence to all species willing to accept the new galactic reality. We have no desire for conquest or domination. We simply want to reclaim our rightful place among the stars. High Counselor. Vextar's voice trembled as he spoke. What happens to those who refuse to accept this new reality? Patricia's expression remained diplomatically neutral, but her words carried an unmistakable warning. Counselor, humanity has been patient for 3 million years. We hope that patience will continue to serve us well in our relationships with our galactic neighbors. The meeting ended in tense silence as alien delegates struggled to comprehend that the species they had mocked and exploited was actually the heir to the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known. The moment of truth. Captain Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the Iron Dawn as it approached Earth's orbital defense platform. But this was not the same ship that had left human space months ago. The vessel now gleamed with the same crystalline technology that had been discovered in ancient ruins across the galaxy. Behind him, the largest fleet in human history followed in perfect formation, 500 ships that had emerged from hidden bases and sleeper facilities throughout known space. Captain, Communications Officer Janet Mills announced, "We're receiving transmission requests from every major news network in the galaxy. It seems word about our capabilities has spread faster than we expected." Marcus smiled as he watched the massive space station that served as Earth's diplomatic headquarters. Today, humanity would officially announce its return to galactic prominence after 3 million years of hiding. The moment had been planned for decades, but the actual execution still felt surreal. "Open a channel to the Galactic Broadcasting Network," Marcus commanded. "It's time for humanity to address the universe." The main screen activated to show a familiar alien news anchor, whose expression clearly revealed her shock at the sight of the human fleet. Behind her, news feeds from across the galaxy showed images of human settlements emerging from concealment on worlds that other species had considered empty wilderness. The address to the Galaxy President Sarah Mitchell stepped forward to address the assembled representatives of 43 different species. The human leader had spent her entire political career preparing for this moment, working with archaeologists, scientists, and military planners to ensure humanity's return would be both peaceful and decisive. "Citizens of the galaxy," President Mitchell began, her voice broadcast simultaneously in over 200 languages. "Today marks the end of humanity's long exile and the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history." The camera feed showed alien delegates seated in stunned silence as holographic displays around them revealed the true scope of human civilization. Ancient cities buried beneath the surface of alien worlds, star charts showing navigation routes that predated most current species by millions of years, and technology that had been quietly supporting galactic infrastructure for centuries. "For 3 million years," President Mitchell continued, "humanity has watched from the shadows as younger species developed their own civilizations. We have traded with you, learned from you, and in many cases, helped you in ways you never realized." Ambassador Patricia Reynolds stepped forward to provide specific examples. The gravitational stabilizers that prevent the Centauri system from collapsing were installed by human engineers 2 million years ago. The quantum communication networks that connect most major trade routes were built using human technology. The defensive barriers that protect 17 different homeworlds from cosmic radiation were gifts from humanity to species we considered friends. The fleet demonstration High Admiral Rachel Stone commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the massive dreadnought Eternal Guardian. The veteran military officer had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, training crews and testing technology that had been kept secret from the galaxy for generations. "All ships," Admiral Stone announced, "begin demonstration maneuvers. Show our neighbors what human engineering can accomplish." The 500 ships of the human fleet began moving in perfect synchronization, performing maneuvers that violated every known law of physics. Ships passed through each other like ghosts, appeared in multiple locations simultaneously, and bent space around themselves to create impossible geometric formations. On worlds throughout the galaxy, alien populations watched in amazement as human vessels demonstrated capabilities that their best scientists had declared theoretically impossible. Ships larger than space stations moved with the grace of dancers, while energy weapons created patterns of light that painted temporary constellations across the darkness of space. The Economic Revolution, Trade Minister David Park activated holographic displays showing economic data that revealed humanity's hidden influence on galactic commerce. The information demonstrated that humans had been quietly supporting interstellar trade for decades through technologies and resources that other species had assumed came from unknown sources. "The rare elements that power your most advanced technologies," Minister Park explained to the gathered alien representatives, "come from human mining operations in stellar cores and neutron star surfaces. The energy sources that support your major cities are channeled through human facilities built inside gas giants and black hole event horizons. Representative Zixara of the Silicon Confederation spoke with a trembling voice. Are you saying that humanity has been controlling galactic trade without our knowledge? Not controlling, Minister Park replied gently. Supporting. Humanity has no interest in domination. We simply wanted to ensure that our galactic neighbors had access to the resources they needed to build stable civilizations. The economic data revealed that human-supplied resources had prevented 17 different trade wars, stopped 3 potential species extinctions due to resource shortages, and supported the development of 12 species, from primitive agricultural societies to advanced spacefaring civilizations. The new diplomatic framework captain Marcus Reed found himself appointed as humanity's first official galactic ambassador, a role that transformed him from a simple cargo hauler into one of the most important figures in galactic politics. His experience dealing with alien species during his merchant years had prepared him for the complex negotiations that would reshape interstellar relations. Representatives of the galactic community, Marcus addressed the emergency session of the Galactic Council. Humanity proposes a new framework for interspecies cooperation based on mutual respect and shared prosperity. The proposed framework eliminated the various tribute systems and protection rackets that had plagued galactic trade for centuries. Instead of powerful species exploiting weaker ones, humanity offered to serve as neutral arbitrators for disputes and provide advanced technology to any species willing to commit to peaceful development. The age of imperial expansion through conquest is over, Marcus declared. Humanity offers partnership to any species willing to embrace cooperation over domination. The dawn of a new era. Chief Engineer Zara Voss stood in the newly activated control center of the Terran Galactic Coordination Facility, a massive space station that had been hidden inside Earth's moon for 3 million years. The facility's awakening marked the beginning of humanity's official return to galactic civilization. All ancient network nodes are now active, Zara reported to the assembled human leadership. We have real-time communication and coordination capabilities with every human facility in the galaxy. Our people are ready to begin the next phase of galactic development. President Mitchell nodded with satisfaction as she watched displays showing human settlements emerging from concealment across dozens of star systems. After 3 million years of patient waiting, humanity was finally ready to reclaim its place among the stars. Marcus, she said to the new ambassador, your first official mission will be to establish permanent diplomatic relations with every major species in the galaxy. We want them to understand that humanity's return represents opportunity, not threat. Captain Marcus Reed looked out at the stars through the observation deck of the coordination facility. Somewhere among those points of light, alien civilizations were adjusting to the reality that the species they had mocked as primitive was actually the inheritor of the galaxy's most ancient and advanced technology. The Iron Dawn is ready for her new mission, Marcus replied. Let's go build some bridges between the stars. As humanity stepped out of the shadows and into the light of galactic leadership, the universe prepared for an era of unprecedented cooperation and discovery. The long exile was over, and the true age of galactic civilization was about to begin.